Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome to the 17th episode of PHP with MySQL crash course for beginners, PHP and MySQL. In this episode, we'll discuss that how you can perform basic CRUD operations. Stands for create, read, update and delete. Let me show you. And here we have got Visual Studio Code as our code editor. And if you need to learn more about VS Code, you can watch my VS based series and find the link in the description below. So I told you CRUD, that stands for create, read, update or edit or delete. So we'll discuss that how you can perform basic CRUD operations on a MySQL database table using PHP. By the way, if you need to learn MySQL database in detail, you can watch our dedicated episode and find the link in the description below. Now, first, you will need to start your MySQL server. So let me bring up my web server window. And we have been using XAMPP as our web server. XAMPP application, and that includes MySQL database and Apache. I have already started Apache web server. Now you will need to start your MySQL database. Let's start it by clicking on this start button. It'll take a couple of moments to start, I guess. And alright, so that's running now. Let me get rid of it. And before we move on to coding in PHP, let me show you a little very handy tool, that is PHP MyAdmin. Now let me bring up our Chrome browser and let's browse to localhost. Hit enter and let's click on this PHP MyAdmin link and make sure that you have started your Apache web server as well as MySQL database server. Let's click on this link and it will take you to this interface. This interface includes this sidebar having all of these, say, new information schema, MySQL performance schema, PHP MyAdmin and test links, and then we have this menu bar that includes database, SQL status, user accounts, export and more. And then we have this interface. Also we have here console. First of all, you will need to create a database. So to create a database, simply click on this new link and that will take you to the interface where you can create your database. Say right here. Here you can enter database name. Now let's create a database with the name of e-commerce. And then you will need to choose one of these options. Right now this is, let me zoom in a bit. So the second option, let's keep it as it is, which is UTF-8 MB4 general_CI. And this is like refers to a specific collation in MySQL database. And collation in databases defines how data is stored and compared. And after adding the name of the database, simply click on this create button. And then you will be redirected to create a new table. Here let's create a table and I'm gonna create a random table, say users. And after that you can define here number of columns that you would like to add in this table. Say I'm gonna add only 3 number of columns. Let's create that. And now we have this interface where you will need to provide information about the columns. Say first column would be ID, and there are many metadata that you will need to choose from, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail. Let's keep it right there. The main things that you will need to select, the ID would be AI, meaning auto increment, and then the next column will be, say, user name. Let's make all of them lowercase. Username is gonna be ID, lowercase ID, and then the third column name would be email. Now the username, the type would be, you can choose any. I guess varchar will do, and then you can define length or values. Let's make it 100, and then we have email. Let's choose varchar, and its length would also be 100. And after defining this metadata, you can hit save to create this table. Now that page redirects you to structure tab, where you can get the information about any specific table. Say we have got 3 columns in our e-commerce table, or you can also get this information here in this sidebar. We have created this database with the name e-commerce, and it has one table which is users. Let's click on it, and you can browse this table. Right now we do not have any data in this table, so to insert data into this table, you can click on this insert tab. I'm gonna add some random users here, user 1, and the email would be email1@example.com. Let's copy this line from here. Let's copy it, and here you can define the number of rows that you want to insert in this table. Say I'm gonna add 3 number of users, so after user 1 I'm gonna add, and you don't need to add here the value of ID because it's auto increment. That's gonna be user 2, and let's go to email, and let's make it email 2. Let's go to the next row, and the username would be user 3. Let's paste that email address, and let's make it email3@example.com. And if you are satisfied with this, you can simply click go, and that notifies you 3 rows inserted, and also provides you with this query, SQL query, that you can also use while you'll be hard coding in PHP. And now if you need to browse the data of this table, you can hit this browse tab, and notice that now it has 3 users or 3 rows, 1, 2, and 3. These IDs are auto increment, meaning it adds these IDs itself, and we provided it with user 1, user 2, user 3, and their email addresses. Now if you want to update or edit this data, you simply double click here and make changes. Say if I make this emails 2, and let's click anywhere, and it notifies you 1 row affected, meaning it has updated the email of your second user. Say if you want to change this user 4 and click anywhere on this white space, it will again notify you that 1 row affected, meaning it has edited or modified user number 3 or ID number 3. So that's how you can update or edit your existing rows or data. Now we are going to move on to if you want to delete any of these rows. So here we have got this delete button. Let's click on it, and it will first provide you with this confirmation box. Do you really want to execute delete from users? Hit OK, and that notifies you that 1 row deleted. And if you notice that we don't have that second ID anymore here in this table. So that's how you can delete any of the, and say if you want to bulk delete, you can select from here, or you can also check all, and that will select all of these rows, and at once. You can click delete button to delete all of these rows at once. Next, you would like to know how you can add SQL queries. So here we have got this tab where you can manually add your SQL queries. Say by default we have got this SQL query here, which is select all from users where with the condition. So we don't need any condition, simply hit go, and that executes the query and give you the end results. And in this editor, SQL query editor, you can insert, select, update and execute them. And here you have little help to select all users, and if you want to select any specific row, you can click on this select tab, or you can click on this. If you want to insert, you can click on this insert button, or you want to update and delete. It gives you this template, and you can make changes to this template and execute this query as per your requirement. Now let's start coding and get back to VS Code. So let me bring up our Explorer, and here I'm gonna select our sample file, and let's make a copy. Let's rename it as MySQL db.php. Hit enter, and let's close this sidebar. And I don't need this sample anymore. I'm gonna close that, as well as let's close this file as well. I'm not gonna save it. Now PHP offers two primary extensions to interact with MySQL databases. Number one is MySQLi. Sorry, let's undo that and go all the way up. But before that, let me add PHP tag, and let me show you. MySQLi, I stands for improved, represents a connection between PHP and a MySQL database. And the second is, let me escape it. The second is PDO, stands for PHP Data Objects. And in this episode, we'll go with MySQLi. Now, first of all, you will need to connect to the database that we have already created. Here, say e-commerce, e-commerce. Let's hit OK, and that takes you to the database. By the way, let me show you, if you want to delete this database, you can simply drop it from here, or say, sorry, that gives you an option to drop the table. Go to the operations tab, and here you find remove database button. Simply click on it and you can delete this database. By the way, we'll need this database while coding in PHP. So to connect to this database, let me cut these lines of code from here, and let's go to the next row. And here I'm gonna define a new variable, say $con equals to, and now you will need to invoke here a function which is MySQLi underscore connect. And this function opens a new connection to the MySQL server alias of MySQLi construct, and also requires a couple of arguments, say hostname, username, password, database, and port, socket, and etc. So let's copy all of them from here, and let's get back in here. And before you connect with the database, let's define a couple of variables here. Say let's cut that from here and cut that sign as well. So we have defined here a couple of variables: hostname, username, password, and database. Now, as far as values of these variables are concerned, the hostname would be within quotes local host. Now let's define here username. So as far as user and password is concerned, we haven't defined any new user. First, let's go all the way to the end and then hit get back and add in here semicolon. Alright, now let's cut that extra semicolon from here. Now as far as username and passwords are concerned, we haven't defined any new user to our database. Now to define a user to your database, let's go back to PHP MyAdmin. Now to create new user, just click on this new button, and here you can find this tab, user accounts. Click on it, and here I'm gonna create a new user by clicking on this add user account button. And here you will need to provide a couple of information, say the username, and that's gonna be, let's make it codeStraight, and the host name would be local. And for this development level or for this beginner level, you can add a password like 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. And now let's retype a password 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and then you will need to give permissions to this user, and I'm gonna grant all the permissions by checking this check button. So after that, make sure that you have provided correct information. Say the name of the user will be codeStraight localhost, password, and then if you want to give all the privileges to this user, you can check all these options, meaning that this user will be able to select, insert, update, delete file, and all of other tasks as well. And after that, let's create the user and hit this go button, and you have added a new user. Let's click never. And now if you want to check the users, let's come in here and click on this MySQL link or button and go all the way down, and here you can find this button user, and here we have got all the users. Say the default user is root, and we have created a user codeStraight. After that, let's get back to VS Code and provide here, let's assign here the username, that is code with uppercase S, codeStraight, and the password that we have provided is 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and the database name is within quotes, say e-commerce, or let's make it server name, and that can be db name. Now after defining all of these variables, let's select all of them and let's come in here and paste them in here, and do not forget to add comma at the end of each of the arguments. So hit save and nothing happens because we haven't browsed this file yet. Now after executing MySQL Connect, you would like to check if you have successfully connected to the database. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and now let's add here if structure and say that function returns true if successfully connected to the database, otherwise it returns an error, and those returns will be assigned to this $con variable. So in that case, this $con variable will become our connection object. So if that returns true or not true, you would like to die the further code execution, and let's call in here our die function with a message, say connection, hopefully connection failed. Let's comment that out, and you can also concatenate here a function which is MySQL underscore connect error. Hit enter, and let me show you. It returns a string description of the last connection error, of the last connect error. So after that, let's add semicolon and hit save. Now before we move on, let's bring up, or that should be $con object. Hit save. Now before moving on, let's bring up our browser, and now let's browse to localhost /PHP tutorial / the name of the file that we have just created, and that is mysql-db.php. Let's browse that file, mysql-db.php, and as you hit enter, we get no error, meaning we have successfully connected to the database. So let's get back to VSCODE, and otherwise let's add else statement as well. Otherwise, you would like to echo welcome to the database, and let's connect here, database, and the name is e-commerce, and let's add semicolon. And now let's resize the editor. Let me bring up the browser, and I'm gonna resize that as well. And now as you hit save, nothing happens because we haven't turned auto reload on. Now to make it work, you will need to start two extensions. Number one, PHP server, second, live server. Now let's start them with open with live server. That'll open this new tab. Let's close that, get back to VSCODE, and now let's open PHP server with this command, PHP server serve project. Hit enter, and that notifies you with these notifications. Let's close them as well as the terminal, and after starting both of these extensions only once, you will need to manually refresh your page. But before we move on, let me add here, say I'm gonna echo, say, or any random text, say hello world followed by semicolon. Hit save. Now only once you will need to manually refresh the page. And before we move on, let's make sure that the auto reload is working by adding any random character here, say S. Hit save. That updates, meaning the auto reload is working. Now let's cut that line of code from there, hit save, and we have successfully connected to the database. Welcome to the database, e-commerce. Let me zoom in a bit. That looks fine. After that, let's move on to how you can insert data into the users table. So let's come in here. Let's add some room here before we move on, and let's go all the way up. And now let's add a comment here, insert data into the users table. Let's comment that out, and before we move on, let's go to PHP MyAdmin, and let's zoom out a bit and click on this e-commerce link or button, and now let's click on this users table. Let me collapse it, and now let's select all of these rows, and I'm gonna delete them. Hit yes. So now we do not have any data in this users table. Now let's resize the browser and get back to VSCODE. Go to the next row, and to insert or to interact with the database, you will need to execute queries that you would do in PHP MyAdmin SQL query editor. So first you will need to prepare that query, then you can execute that. So let's get started. First, I'm gonna define a new variable here, say insert SQL equals to within quotes, and now here I'm gonna define a query. And there is one hack that you can go to, let me maximize the browser and go to PHP MyAdmin. So you can come in here SQL and copy the query from here as well. Say if I click here insert, now insert into users ID, username, email, and here you can define the values. This is one of the ways that you can insert or prepare any query. So let's add a couple of them here. Say the user can be John Doe. Let me zoom in a bit. John Doe, and the second value would be, by the way, you do not need to specify here this first column because it is auto increment. So let me cut that from here, and let's define here we also do not need this third value because we have cut that first column. Now the second value for the email would be, say, john@example.com. Now once you are satisfied with the query, let's copy this query from here, get back to VS Code and paste that query here. Let me wrap the editor. This is one of the ways, I mean, things become a little easier for you. So at this beginner level, you can simply prepare your queries here in the editor, because while preparing queries, this PHP MyAdmin editor will also notify you if there is an error in your query. So that might help you a lot. And after that, if you are satisfied with the query, let's go to the next row. And now you can execute the query. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and you would also like to check if the query was successfully executed. Let's go to the next row and define here our favorite if-else structure. Let's browse all the way up. Now to execute this query, you will need to invoke here a function which is MySQLi. Sorry, by mistake I did not cut that. MySQLi SQLi underscore query function. And this function performs a query on the database and requires a couple of arguments. First, the connection object, say $con, that we defined above right here. So that's our connection object. Let's get back to our query execution, and the second argument, the query you want to execute, and in this case, say $insert SQL. So before we hit save, so if that's true, meaning, let me see if it also give you the information about what it returns. It returns MySQLi underscore result or boolean. For successful select, show, describe, or explain queries, MySQLi will return a MySQLi result. For other successful queries, it will return true or false on failure. So if that query returns true, let's go to the next row, and you would like to echo, say, new record has successfully been created, followed by a semicolon. Else you would like to echo error. And now let's concatenate here $insert SQL, and then let's concatenate the error that you receive from your MySQLi class. So to get that error, you can invoke here a function, or let's cut that from here and add semicolon, go to the next row, let's add some line break, and after that let's echo the query, and after that let's add some line breaks again, and do not forget to add semicolon here. And let me bring up my browser and let's resize it, and as you hit save, we get the message say welcome to the database and new record has successfully been created. And before that, now let's comment this whole code out, otherwise it will be executed again if I hit save. What I need is simply, or you can go back to PHP MyAdmin and click on this users table just to make sure that if we have any record, yes, so the query has successfully been created a new user, that is John Doe, john@example.com. So that's how you successfully executed your first query from PHP. Now let me comment this whole block of code out with the hotkey Control or Command Shift A. Otherwise, if I hit save again, it will execute the same query again. And let's go all the way up and let's add some line break. I always forget to add line breaks after echo statement. Next, you would like to say fetch, or let's scroll all the way up. Next, you would like to fetch data from the users table. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and to retrieve or fetch the data from the database, again the procedure will be the same. You will need to prepare a query and then you will need to execute it, and after that you can display to your front end. So if I hit save, nothing happens. Now let's prepare a query. I'm going to define here a new variable, say select SQL. SQL stands for structured query language, equals to, now let's get back to PHP MyAdmin again, and let me maximize the browser and go to the SQL query editor, and let's select or hit this select all button, and we don't need any condition here. So let's copy this whole query from here and get back to VS Code. Within codes, let's paste that query followed by a semicolon, and after that you will need to invoke a function that we invoked to insert our user. Let's copy that from here and paste that in here, but here you will need to replace this insert query or insert SQL with this select SQL followed by semicolon, and you would also like to assign the result to some variable, say $result equals to this whole expression, because this function, as mentioned here, returns for successful select, show, describe, or explain queries. MySQLi will return a MySQLi result object. You would definitely like to assign the result to this variable so that you can fetch the result from this object and post it to your front end or any further task. Let's go to the next row. Or before we move on, let me add, let's comment that out, and I'm gonna add another user. Let's uncomment this whole block of code and let's change the user information. Say let's add any random user here, user2 at example.com, and hit save, and that should successfully create a new user. Go back to users table, hit OK, and we get another user here. Now let's get back to our mysql-db.php and let me resize the browser and get back to VS Code. So after inserting another user, I'm gonna comment this whole block of code out select everything and then comment it out. Now I'm gonna uncomment this block of code. Alright, now let's go to the next row. Now if you execute this query, say select all from users, so all of the users will be fetched from the database and assigned to this result object. And now first you would like to check if you receive any result or not. Check if you retrieve any result. If you have retrieved any results, let's comment that out. Go to the next row and I'm going to define here if else structure. So if you receive any error, you would like to echo, or say you would like to post the user's information to your front end. Otherwise you would like to echo within quotes, say 0 errors followed by semicolon. And you can check if you get any results by invoking a function which is mysqli underscore num underscore rows, and that function gets the number of rows in a result and it needs one argument which is the results. So let's come in here and add our result object, and after that you would like to fetch the data from each of the row and post to your front end. And to do that, I'm gonna call in here while loop, and to fetch the data from our result object, let's call in here a function which is mysqli underscore fetch associative array. Hit enter, and this function fetches the next row of a result set as an associative array. And let's pass here the result object as an argument, and let's assign the results to the variable, say row. So this function will simply fetch the row from a result object and assign it to this row variable on each iteration, because we have added here while loop. Now after that, let's go to the next row, and let me first, or say let me show you what do we have in this row variable, dollar row followed by semicolon, and as you hit save, we get the data from here. So this array, or you would like to, here we have got our first row, that's an array, and here we have got another row, that's also an array. Our first row includes 1 and 2, 1, 2 and 3 keys. Number 1 is ID, second is username, and third is email. And in our next row we have got an array, and the first key is ID, the second key is username, and the third key is email. So these keys correspond to the columns that we added to our database: ID, username, and email. So say if you want to fetch or get the ID of the user, or the name of the user, or email, you can get that with their respective keys. So let me show you what I mean by that. Now let me comment that out, and we don't need to comment this query out because it's simply selecting, not inserting any new data. So let's come in here, and here you would like to echo, say welcome user colon followed by semicolon, and then add some line break, and after that you would like to echo, say the ID of the user colon, and let's concatenate here dollar row variable and its corresponding key, which is ID. And after that, let's copy, or let's add a comma there, or say you would like to concatenate some space, and then you would like to concatenate here. Let's copy this template from here and let's paste it here. Now you would like to post here the username, and let's specify its key here, which is right here. Let's copy that from here and paste that in here. And after that, you would like to, let's copy this whole template from here and paste that in here. And we don't need this ending quotes and concatenation period. And at the end, you would like to post the email address. Let's make it email and its corresponding key. Let's paste it there. Now if you hit save, we get syntax error because we did not add here semicolon. Hit save and we get welcome to the database, e-commerce, welcome user. The ID is for username, John Doe, email, this is the email. And then it again, or let's cut this line of code from here and paste that before loop, because we do not want this welcome user repeatedly. Let's paste that in here. And after each user, or displaying each user's information, you would like to add some line break. Hit save and we get that done. So first user having ID 4 and the username is John Doe, email is john@example.com. Likewise, we have another which is ID 5, username user2, email user2@example.com. So that's how you can retrieve data from database and post it to your front end. And after that, let's get back to VS Code. Now after that, you would like to, let me scroll all the way up, go to the next row. Now after retrieving data from database, you would like to know that how you can update or modify data in the users table. Let's comment that out and go to the next row. And now you will need to prepare the query, say $update SQL equals to within quotes. Now let's go to our PHP MyAdmin users table, SQL editor, and let's click update. So the query is update users set ID equals to this, username equals to this, email equals to this, and it also includes a conditional keyword which is where. Otherwise, it will update all of your data set. We don't need this ID column and the username because we will only try to update, or let's modify the email address of our first user, which is having ID 4 and username John Doe. And it's right now its email is john@example.com. Now let's get back to SQL editor. So after this conditional keyword where ID equals to 4, or you can also add in here username equals to within quotes and the name of the user, however you like. So let's add in here ID equals to 4. And as far as the value is concerned, we can add in here, say right now this is john@example.com, and let's modify it with say john_doe@example.com. and make sure before you copy this query and execute it from PHP, let's try that right here. Let me zoom out a bit and hit go. One row affected, meaning it has executed or it has modified the email address of our first user. Now let's and after this notification, it also provides you with the query, with the last query that was executed. Now let's copy this query from here and go to users table, and let's make sure that it has changed or modified the email address of the user, John Doe. Now let's get back to VS Code and paste the query here. Let me maximize and let's cut this extra space from here. And I accidentally added semicolon before code. Let's add it after the code. Now let's resize the editor and bring up browser and resize it as well. So now I'm gonna make it say Johnny _ Doe at example.com, or let's make it John.Doe at example.com. After that, query preparation, and once you are satisfied that the query is correct and it's being executed on PHP MyAdmin, now let's try it right here, and the procedure would be the same. Let's get back in here, and where we actually executed our first query, let's copy this line of code from here, go all the way down, and let's paste that in here, and let's uncomment this whole code block. Sorry, let's undo that, and let's select all of them and hit Control Alt Shift A. It's not working. Let's cut that manually. Let's cut that as well. All right, now make sure that you make some changes here. Say first you would like to check if the query has successfully been executed. Let's comment that out, and let's pass here the second argument, which is update SQL. Now you would also like to change this echo message. Say let's make it record updated, or say successfully updated, or you would like to echo error updating the record. And always always remember to add line break, otherwise they might confuse you in subsequent code execution. Alright, now let's get back to VS Code. Let me zoom in a bit, and hopefully I don't have anything that shouldn't be executed. So that's simply retrieving, and before that we had a insert query, insert, select, and now we are updating. So after all that, hit save, and we get the message which is record successfully updated. Now it does not display the updated record or updated email here, because this block of code executed after echoing this data. I think we have some extra line breaks here, so I'm gonna go back in here and let's cut this line of code from here. That adds 2 line breaks. Let's cut that from here, or ID. After that it adds, alright, double line break. Why is that adding more than 1 line break or unnecessary line break? Welcome user, let's go all the way up. See, welcome user, we don't have. Alright, so this is because of this line break. Welcome user, let's cut that line break from here and paste it after welcome user. Simply, hopefully now we will not have these extra line breaks. Now make sure that you comment this block of code out, and before that let's cut that extra space from here. And now let's select everything from here and comment this out, otherwise it will update, or say, sorry, let's come here and select this update code block from here and comment this out. Now as you hit save, we get the updated email address, which is John john.doe@example.com that we specified here, right here, john.doe@example.com. So that's how you can update database with PHP. And after that, let's go to the next row and scroll all the way up. And after that, you would like to know that how you can delete or remove data from the table or database. Let's comment that out and make sure that you add this where keyword followed by your update query, otherwise it would update all the rows. Now let's come in here and prepare a query to delete any data from your database. So for that, let me define a new variable here, say delete SQL equals to, now let's get back to our browser and go to PHP MyAdmin. Let me maximize the browser and click on this SQL query editor and click on this delete button just to get the delete query. And let's delete, say let's browse it, we have two rows here having ID 4 and 5, say John Doe and user 2. Now let's try to delete this second row or the second user having ID of 5. Now let's go to SQL editor and click on this delete button where ID, I forgot the ID, get back to users table, I think that must be 5. Yes. So let's go to SQL editor, click on this delete button and replace this 0 with 5. Now let's copy this query from here. Let's resize the browser, go to our page and get back to VSCODE and paste the query here, followed by a semicolon, and after that let's copy everything from here and let's paste that back in here and simply uncomment. I don't know why it doesn't work. Let's cut that from here. So now you will replace the second argument with the delete SQL, and you would like to, if returns true, you would like to echo, say record successfully deleted. Otherwise you would like to echo error deleting the record. And for this preparation, you should be careful that you always go back and see if there is anything that you shouldn't execute while executing this new query. So that's why I commented out, meaning if select is there, it's okay. Second, if modify or update query is there, you would like to comment that out. And then if delete query is there, you would like to comment that out as well. By the way, we are going to execute this query just to delete from users table where ID equals to 5. I simply added here 5. It should be ID equals to 5. And as I hit save, we get the message record successfully deleted. Now to get the data from the database, I'm gonna comment this block out. Now if I hit save, we get only one record having ID 4. Now we don't have the other record that was having ID 5 because we actually deleted it with this delete query. And always remember to close connection after your code execution. So let's comment that out, and you can close the connection by invoking a function which is mysqli underscore close, and that will need an argument, your connection object. Let's pass that here, followed by semicolon, and if you hit save again, that also closes the connection. After that, let's move on to that how you can prevent SQL injection. Let me type it down, SQL-injection. SQL injection is a code injection technique that might destroy your database. SQL injection is the placement of malicious code in SQL statements via web page input. So let me close that file and let me bring up my Explorer. Let's select this sample.php, copy and paste, and let's rename it as SQL-injection. That should be in lowercase, SQL-injection. I've created a new file named SQL-injection. Let me close the Explorer and sample.php, and I guess we don't need this MySQL. Let's keep it right there. So let's add some PHP tag here. And first of all, let's create a very basic HTML form, and I'm gonna add a HTML template. And if you're using Visual Studio Code, you would also get this suggestion box. And after that, let's make some changes here. I'm gonna give a title to the page as SQL-injection. Let's go to the body, and here I'm gonna define a new form, and it will, on submission, it will redirect us to the same page. So I'm gonna left the value of action blank, and then I'm gonna add a couple of inputs here. Say first I'm gonna add a label, and the value of the for attribute will have user name, and let's add a username text here, followed by colon, and after that I'm gonna add an input here, and the type would be the text. And as far as name is concerned, I'm gonna add in here user name, and the ID will also be the same, and this ID corresponds to this four values attributes. And then I'm gonna move on to the next line and add another input, and the value of the type attribute would be submit. And let's define here another attribute. I'm gonna get rid of it for now. That's gonna be value submit, because it will be displayed here in our browser. And after that, let's save the page and let's browse to this recently created page, localhost, and the name is SQL-injection. SQL-injection. Hit enter, and that gives us, let's take or add some line break there. That looks fine. Now after that, let's get back to PHP part or the backend part. Now a couple of things will be the same, so I'm gonna come in here to mysql-db.php and let's go all the way up. Let me maximize the editor, and I'm gonna copy a couple of lines of code from here. Say we'll need to connect the database, as well as we'll also try to check if connect successfully, otherwise die. Then let's select everything from here, and then we'll make changes as per our convenience. Let's copy everything from here and let's paste that in here. We don't need that extra PHP ending tag. Let's cut that out, and then let's fix this indentation and see what we need to. First, let's go all the way here and cut this extra space. So let's cut step by step. I'm gonna change this to welcome to, I'm gonna make this SQL hyphen injection prevention, and then we don't want to insert any data into the database. We'll need to fetch data from database, and then we don't need to update. And so I'm gonna cut this rest of the code from here, and at the end let's keep it right there to close the connection. Let's cut everything from here and see what are we left with. We'll need to prepare the SQL query, and also we'll need to check if retrieved any result. I forgot one thing here in this conditional parenthesis. Let's copy that in here, and that should be, let's find that in here, and that should be if this is greater than 0. Otherwise I don't think it's necessary here to add. So then this condition will be true and enters to this block of code. It's safe, and make sure that you also update your code with this modification. Now let's get back to SQL injection, and let's start from here. I'm gonna hit save, and then first let me show you what is SQL injection. So for that we'll need to add a couple of we have connected and then check if successful, or I think I should start over. It's getting confused. It's actually confusing me, so I'm gonna cut everything from here. So after this echo statement, let's go to the next row, or let's add some room here. Let's go all the way up, and let's go to the next row. And first let me show you how you can retrieve form hyphen data, and you can get that data from, let's print underscore r dollar underscore post, because the method should be post. Let me specify here another attribute. Make sure that you also make this modification. I have method equals to, say, post. And now let's get back to our PHP part. Now within this super global array we can get the form data. Now let's resize the editor, hit save, and let's add some line break here. I don't know why it's not giving me the right. Let's delete that and make it and comment this out. I don't know why is it adding that much space here. And then it adds, let's prettify it. That looks fine now, I guess. Let's cut that from here and comment this out again and fix the indentation. Now everything looks perfect. And after prevention there is a line. Hit save again, and we have got this empty array because we haven't filled this field, username field. So let's say if I add in here 1 2 3 submit, we get this form data in this array $_post, and the key is username. So that's how you can retrieve the data from the input form. Now get back to VS Code, go to the next row, and now you would like to check. Let's make it lowercase. Let me turn off the caps lock and continue typing. Say you would like to check if username variable, if username key is empty, or say is not empty. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and let's comment that out as well. And I am gonna add here and say if it's not empty, otherwise 0 results. Let me wrap the editor, and after that let's scroll all the way up, and here I'm gonna add if else statement or a structure, and as we defined earlier, I'm gonna check here if $_post array with a key which is username. Let's copy that from here just to avoid any typo error and paste it back here. If it's not empty, we are gonna execute our further code execution here. Otherwise, let's echo simply form has not been submitted, followed by semicolon, and if I hit save, form has not been submitted. And if I add username here, say 123, hit enter, form still has not been submitted. Let's submit. Why is that showing me form has not been submitted? $_post username. Let's come in here and make sure that we don't have any typo error. Let's copy that from here and paste it right here. $_post. If not, say I'm gonna cut that from here. If not, what? If not, empty. And then let's pass here $_post username, and then let's echo the same, followed by semicolon, hit save, and we get that. And if I submit blank, form has not been submitted. So after that, let's comment that out. After that, let's assign the username to a new variable, say username equals to the same, followed by semicolon. And now let me demonstrate you the vulnerable code that is susceptible to SQL injection. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and first let me add some room here. First you will need to prepare a query. Let's add $SQL equals to, and let's get back to PHP MyAdmin, and let's select this query from here, and here I'm gonna add a keyword where username equals to $username, or say let's cut that from here. Username can be John, or first let's check the user. The user is John Doe. Let's copy the name from here, get back in here and paste the name here within quotes, paste, followed by nothing. And once you are satisfied with the query, simply hit go, and that returns you John Doe. So let's copy this query from here, select all from users where username equals to John Doe, and let's get back to VS Code. Within quotes, let's paste the query and cut that extra space from here, followed by semicolon. And now let's replace this John Doe from $username with username. After that, let's go to new line and let's execute the query by invoking or by specifying here our connection object, and let's invoke its function, which is query, and pass here the query $SQL, followed by semicolon. And this is the object-oriented way to invoke a method, because previously we used MySQL_query. Now we invoked a function of this connection object, and let's assign the returned result to a new variable, say $result equals to the returned value of this query. Let's go to the next row. Let me resize the editor and get back to our file. Let's close one of the PHP MyAdmin tab, get back to VS Code. Now you would like to check if retrieve any data. Let's comment that out, go to the next row and add here if else statement. So if you don't get any error, any data, let's echo 0 results. Otherwise, as far as this conditional block is concerned, let's specify here $results, and after that let's go to the next row and I'm gonna invoke here while loop, and the condition would be say $row equals to $results. Now let's invoke a method fetch underscore assoc, meaning that will fetch associative array of this result object and assign it to this row variable, meaning in each iteration it will get or fetch the one row from the database and assign that row to this $variable. And after that you would like to echo, and let's get back to MySQL db.php and let's copy this whole block of code from here, get back in here and paste that in here. Now as I hit save, we get nothing, but if I type in here John, or let's copy the name, let's copy the name from here, go back to form and paste that name in here, and we get the results. ID for username John Doe, and that should be email. Make sure that you also fix this typo error, email, and let's fix this here as well, email. Let's save that, get back to SQL injection and save that again. Now let me add a couple of users in our database. Let me maximize the browser, get back to PHP MyAdmin, and here I'm gonna insert a couple of new users, say user 2. The email would be foo@example.com. let's copy it and then go to the next row. That would be user 2, and the email would be foo2@example.com, and after that hit go, and that should add 2 more users to our database users table. Say you are creating an e-commerce application and you have user login page where user will come in and get logged in. So definitely in your e-commerce application there might be more than one user, and you wouldn't like to display all users data to each of your users. And if you do not prevent the SQL injection, that could happen. Let me show you what I mean by that. Say if anyone come here, if I add the user back in here and hit submit, nothing happens. But if any troublemaker visits your application and type in here, say within quotes space, or let me type that code right here, space, and after that or within quotes 1 equals to within quotes 1, after that couple of hyphens, and let's copy or cut this expression from here and hit save, nothing happens. But if that expression is inserted here and hit submit, that returns all of your users and posts to your front end. And this is the issue, this is the problem that you would definitely not like to happen with your own e-commerce application. So this is one of the examples of SQL injection. Now let's talk about how you can prevent SQL injection. And for that, let's get back in here to this SQL part. Now this is the vulnerable code. Let me comment this line out, and now we'll start over. Now here I'm gonna add preventive code for SQL injection. Now let's comment that out, go to the next row, and let me turn off my caps lock, and then I'm gonna prepare a query. Say, let's specify here our connection object, and I'm gonna call here, let's add a comment here, prepare the query. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and then I'm gonna invoke its method, that is prepare. And here you will need to pass your query. Say within quotes, let's copy everything from here and paste that in here. Now in preventive and vulnerable code, there is one difference, that in vulnerable code you also define the value of the column, whereas in preventive code you make some changes here. You just replace it with a placeholder denoted by question mark, and that's how you actually prepare your SQL query. Now let's go to the next row, and I'm gonna add a comment here, say bind parameters to the query. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and you can, binding means simply you will define here the value, or simply give the value of this question mark. So let's come in here, and let's before that you will also need to assign the result of this prepare statement to some variable. Say $stmt statement equals to this whole expression, and after that you will need to call a method which is bind param, and bind param binds variables to a prepared statement as parameters, and it needs couple of arguments, the type of the variable and the variable. So the type can be, here is S. By the way, the types can be, let's go to the next row, and I'm gonna define here the types, or let's come in here. Type can be, say, string, integer, double or float, or blob. And the string is denoted by S, the integer is denoted by I, and the double or float is denoted by D, and this blob is denoted by B. So let's get back to our file, and hopefully you get the idea why did I add here S followed by comma, and let's specify here as a second argument the query statement followed by semicolon. Now go to the next row, and now you are ready to execute the query. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and let's call in here the object, and let's call here a method execute, and you don't need to pass here any arguments, followed by semicolon, and at the end you will, I'm also gonna cut this line of code from here and paste that in here, and let's comment that out, copy it and paste that back in here, uncomment. Now that should be, now the result should be statement, or say $statement, and then you will need to invoke its method here, say get underscore result to get the result, and rest will be the same. Now if I hit save, we get fatal error, STMT could not be converted to a string, line number 45. Sorry, I forgot to add here the username. I specified here the statement that should be username. Now hit save. We don't get any error. And now if you insert here the same input that we previously inserted and got all the users, let's insert it again and hit submit. Now we don't get any result. So that's how you can prevent SQL injection, and that was all about it. Moreover, I have also uploaded all of these tutorial files to our GitHub repository. Moreover, if you have any question, you just feel free to comment below, and do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for watching and see you next time.